Steve Wozniak, welcome.
Hi, Chris. Very glad to be here.
What did you imagine the personal computer would be when you made the first one in 1975?
Well, we hoped, and in some kind of imagination, that it would be in every home, every family in the world would have a computer, but it would be a tool that you would learn to operate and program. You would learn the essence of being a developer and write your own programs. We didn't realize they'd just be handed to you and you'd have everything kind of pre-done in the world, but we had hopes.
But you were the first and last person to build the hardware and the software of a computer from scratch, weren't you?
Every bit of the computer design was entirely done by myself. I do not know how. Well, yes, I do, but it was like decades of evolution from when I was very young, 10 years old, devoting myself to this practice just out of a love for it. So, and, wound up with some incredible computers, but some incredible thinking, too. I really want to be known as an engineer more than inventing the first personal computer ever, and being a great engineer. And I figured out a way to do color with a $1 chip instead of a $1,000 board. And that was really the heart of the computer that was going to change the world.
So just before this, you are working for Hewlett-Packard. It's your dream job, and you are dealing with Steve Jobs, of course, who is the other Steve in this equation, and he convinces you that you should really jump ship and found this company.
Correct. For about 5 years, Steve and I had been best friends, and one device after another, I would always design them, invent them, not copy anybody else's work, and build these incredible projects. And he would always find a way to turn them into money. And finally he said, the two of us, we got to have a company for once in our life, our own company, and it doesn't matter if we make a profit or not. And that was kind of important because I wasn't sure if we would.
So how important was the relationship between the two of you?
Oh, the relationship was extremely good over that time. We both grew up in the counterculture days. We both admired people who thought differently about things. We didn't like strict rules of everything in life, dress and behavior and all that. We loved the same kind of music that had deep thoughts about and clever symbols and vague words, and we liked it like it was more like poetry, like something Shakespeare would have done if it came from Bob Dylan. We loved little pranks and jokes in those days, and pulled some ourselves, and that's just so we were very much alike in that time frame.
Well, few people are lucky enough to be young when a revolution begins. What is it like to be one of those people? Do you reflect on that much?
Yes, I do. We used the word revolution. We're going to revolutionize the world. We're going to put a computer in every home. And the big companies did not believe us. They said it would not happen. That made us even more passionate and more determined. And I always wanted to be some kind of rebel. So I liked it when we used the word, this is a revolution. I wanted to be a revolutionary. I'm looking back, I knew at the time that I was doing the most outstanding products that could put in people's hands and give them power, the little guy that he never had before against the huge corporation that could afford computers of the day. But, of course, you never know how far it's going to go this far.
I remember vividly remember getting a letter from a friend in 1979, and he said in it, "I'm writing this to you on a computer." And I remember showing it to other people and saying, "I can't conceive how you do that. I didn't imagine a keyboard being attached to a computer. I had images of a large room full of machines with big round bits that spun about." So you were the one who put those bits together, and now you can't imagine writing a letter. Many people can't imagine writing a letter at all.
Yeah, what your friend was doing was actually very important because we could not envision that a computer would ever have enough memory to store a song. The sort of things that computers are used to do today, to store a picture, to store photographs, to operate on videos. We could have never imagined that. But we easily saw from day one you were going to be able to have word processors to type notes, make changes, unlike the typewriters, the mechanical typewriters of old that we grew up with. So your friend just represented, one of the keys that we had at the start. We knew we were making something of value. We didn't know the millions and millions of things computers would eventually do.
You also invented the universal remote control, which is a boon to everyone in their lounge room.
It was very dear to my heart. Built a very sophisticated computerish one, almost like an iPhone style of with a remote control in your hand. And it came out of personal needs in my own home and desires. And it was a chance to get together with just a few people sitting around the pizza parlor and talking about ideas of a new product for the world, just like Steve Jobs and I did at the start of computers.
So what is your proudest achievement?
Proudest achievement? Well, going in the way you're asking the question, I'm going to take it as something kind of technical, something you have done in your life. And I'm going to really say the Apple II computer. Every time I look back, one thing after another, after another, after another in that design were just such superb engineering, the thing that I admired most in the world. Ways to use parts in ways they were never intended, to build something with less and to make it affordable. And that's probably number one. You know, I could go back and have fanciful answers that are different if I wanted.
So what do you see the future being now that you've seen so much change over the course of that time since you made that first computer?
Yes, it took me even a while to see the future, but it's based upon what I like when I use computing equipment. When I like something, you go through a one-way door. You don't want to go back to the old way. And that's always been ease of use. It's always been a computer that acts naturally the way I live my life as a human being. The computer has enough software put into it that it operates the human way. These computers are getting more and more human. We're now touching it like you touch a human, like you touch a real object on a table to move it with your own hand. We're speaking to our phones and our computers and telling them what to do. I don't have to think very hard to think up what I want to tell you. I speak to you as a human being. I want to speak to my computers as a human being and get answers. I want to get answers. I want to get assistance. I want them to do their useful things for me that they do much better than humans do. So I really think this very natural interface where you don't really have to think out procedures to get things done. This started for me the first day I had a Newton message pad from Apple, the first PDA in the world, and I wrote with my own hand. I wrote a note, you know, as we were on the way to Disney World, I wrote a note, Sarah, dentist, Tuesday, 2 p.m., and I clicked a button called assist, not knowing what it would do, and whoa. It opened up the calendar. It put things in on Tuesday at 2 p.m. with Sarah from my address book, and the note was dentist. And I said, oh my God, I just thought something with my head to handwrite a note, and this machine understood me. The machines have got to understand us. They've got to become more like brains, more like people, and they've got to have a conscience someday. And then I think back and I see all the signs that it's starting, and we're on that path that Ray Kurzweil says the computers will kind of equal our intelligence by maybe 40 years from now.
So do you think that in the future, the real world and the virtual world will be indivisible?
Ha ha ha. I don't exactly know what that means, because that implies the human being is still on top of things using the virtual world. I'm sort of saying the virtual world might grow up to do everything for us, and often you don't need, once you have a machine that can do things much better than a person, well, what is our use in life? You have robots that can go do the mining. You've got Google to do your thinking rather than asking a smart person. And eventually, I mean, look at, I went into a major trading house in New York. 80% of the transactions, their big transactions, are all going through a computer in milliseconds with no human being involved. Well, what if it comes down to computers are thinking 100 times better than any human? And you have company A that uses some humans and company B that skips the slow humans and only has computers doing the job. Right now, you know, economics usually wins, the company that does better. And I think that's the future for all technology. I really think that we lost this war to machines in a sense, you know, maybe a couple hundred years ago. And it's our job to be good gods.
How would you describe the legacy of Steve Jobs?
Steve was an incredible leader and a manager. He went through an awful lot of things in life that got him to that point, and really it was upon his return to Apple. He now really knew how to run a company and not make mistakes. He did need the backing of the board and all that, but how to keep track of the operations and the inventory and manage every single department there ever was in a company. And on day one, when we formed Apple, that was the role that was assigned to him by our mentor and our teacher, who was also our funder.
Finally, what advice would you have for the young who have ideas?
The young who have ideas, don't ever sacrifice quality. Try to do any job you do better than any other human being would do. When you get a product, you get an idea for a product, think and think and think. Reflect a lot. It's better to have a shy person that goes in the quiet and thinks in their own head about how they can improve it, make it better, make it superior, maybe even a totally different way than has ever been done before. Don't ever give up on your ideas if you believe in them.
Steve Wozniak, thank you.
Been a pleasure being here, talking to you, Chris.